Welcome to the OC. I'm your host, Phill, and this is my co-host, Corey. And together we are Ordered Chaos. And on today's podcast, we're talking about what, Corey?
Ooh, Rise of the Machines.
Oh my God.
I know. It's not just for Terminators anymore. It is a artificial intelligence discussion. It is basically how our world has changed greatly over the last 30 years from science fiction to science fact. And the scary possibilities of where we're heading.
I was amazed by reading. It went back as far as it did. You're looking at like 60 years this stuff started. 60 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
You know, isn't that crazy? Do you find that weird?
I mean, what's weird, right? This doesn't happen. Like you saw before the rise of the information age that we're currently in, right? So one of the things you see with science fiction is they thought we'd all have flying cars by now, right? It would be nuclear power. It would be great. We'd have flying cars. It'd be the Jetsons.
They were really wrong.
Boy, were they wrong. Yeah, watch Blade Runner. I think it happened like...
I love Blade. But
it happened like, I think 6 years. I think it was like 2015 or... It was set at a time when, we've passed it already. And we don't have replicants. We're not colonizing. We're trying to colonize Mars, but we're not really doing stuff out of orbit.
No.
But we also haven't destroyed the environment either to the level that Blade Runner had. So I suppose
not where the skies are covered over with dust and
correct
pollution. We're close.
But we're working on it. We're a little behind schedule. But
we're very, very, very fucking dedicated to it, man.
But you had, when you say we started this years ago, right? 60 years. It was only, I'm going to say, in the last 30 where you've seen this happen.
Yeah. So from my reading anyway, it had its ups and downs, right? So it would seem like they would get to a plateau, build a few things. Like 1970, they created a robot in Japan. I don't know if you remember this. It's called, what was it called? Wabot.
Was that the one in the Rocky movie?
No.
Rocky 2, where it's got the, I think Paulie buys Rocky this because it's
no. So this was basically just it was autonomous. So it had vision, had video, right? So it could see things. So it had sensors. It had manipulating hands. So it had hands that could perform tasks and things like that. It was pretty interesting, but then it sort of just went downhill a little bit, and then it had a resurgence, like you say, about 20 years ago.
Well, that's because we're actually dealing with true AI in the sense of, remember, I guess the voice activation for stuff. Remember that was a big thing where our voice was going to control everything, and you'd have to. Sorry,
the flapper.
The clap on. Okay, fair enough.
Or is that different? I don't know.
It's a little different because that's like a sound and it's in a certain range. I'm talking the early voice recognition stuff where you would go off and get your car to do things. I remember watching, this would have been 1994, Spider-Man the Animated Series. Punisher shows up and everything in his battle van is voice activated.
Like Knight Rider.
Okay, and Knight Rider would be an example of science fiction AI we're actually getting closer to that. We're still not quite there, but we're getting closer to it. So let me put this to you. What is AI?
Well, it's funny you say what is AI because there's what they call narrow AI. So there's machine learning to do a particular task. And then there's like this autonomous learning, which is to like learn sort of on the fly how to do things.
So with what you're going there is you got your machine learning and then you have your deep learning. So usually your machine learning.
They call it deep learning.
Well, that's one of the terms. I'm drawing from IBM. Yeah. I worked at IBM, so IBM, might as well go with them.
You kind of know a little about this stuff.
I didn't do any of this stuff. I liked IBM and I worked for them. So not in this at all. But the machine learning is the idea of you're given something. This all requires data. So this really wasn't possible to the level it is until we got to a point where there's a ton of data. And what's one of the biggest systems of data that existed started 1995-ish?
Yeah, the World Wide Web.
Bingo. Right. And then we're trapped in it. It's got us.
Oh, so well that yeah. So everything that I've been reading is like Apple, Google, Amazon. I mean, it's those are like they're gonna take over the world.
Well, and this is where it gets scary, because when you deal with machine learning requires us to feed the AI construct with the neural network labeled data, right? We've got to say this is hats. These are a bunch of hats, right?
That's right.
And deep learning is where it starts to go off.
And that looks like a hat.
Right. Where all of a sudden it says, you didn't tell me this was a hat, but I know from these things. And is it a hat? Oh, it is. Oh, it's not. Okay, what is? And then it starts feeding, and then it starts programming itself. And that's the scary one.
You're fucking right. That's scary. I don't care who you are. You know what? If my toaster talks back to me and goes, nice hat, I'm gonna be fucking terrified. Right? Like, goddamn.
I mean, you've got Siri.
And Siri is insane. You know, and that people are like, oh, it's just your phone, because we've gotten used to it. Imagine if someone came to us in high school and showed us Siri. We'd all be like, what is this black voodoo magic you show us? I
remember sending an email. Do you remember sending your first email?
I vaguely, but yes. And
I remember like, oh my God, I just sent an email. It's going across the world. Like we had phones, so it shouldn't have been a big surprise that, you know, you could do this, but I just remember sending it like, oh my God, I'm on a website in the United States.
Well, I remember the first time I went on the web was in high school. Do you remember Mr. Petrozella?
Yes.
Yeah. And it was him. And at that time, the web was only really for, you know, teachers.
Pornography. Oh,
I don't even think it was that we weren't there yet.
That was like the first thing. I think that was one of the first things that showed up on it was DARPA or ARPANET. And the first thing was some pixelated pornography. Like it was like
Hooters. The fucking Hooters made it first time. Yeah, no. So he showed it and he was like, you sort of, you know, it was chat groups about, you know, learning and science. And it was meant for scientists and doctors to get.
So together. That was the origins of it, right?
Right.
It was designed. It was not designed to be kitten videos, although it quickly became that.
Well, once you introduce it to the mainstream, what do you fucking think's going to happen? You know, I mean, we had to earn our porn, Corey. I fucking, you know, they got it too easy. These guys got it too easy, and they fucking do. You know,
now you're sounding like that old man who's complaining about having to walk uphill both ways in 10 feet of snow to school, which we did.
You remember black and white porn? Anyway,
Jesus,
this is the way the world's gone now.
Okay. I don't even know. This conversation's going somewhere.
I don't know. But I mean, hey, the internet is a giant fucking porn site. I mean,
it's a repository. So it's funny about that. So talking about the internet is this massive repository of information, right? Information, opinions, dynamic, static, everything. It's this beautiful thing. I love it for all its faults. However,
confusing.
Can you imagine what happens when you try to teach an AI off that?
So that's a funny story. And you may know this story.
Oh, I do. But I'm going to let you run with it.
Well, I'm only going to run with it. Well, so Microsoft has made a bot, right? And
what was the bot's name?
I don't know the bot's name.
Tay tweets. Tay tweets, which, you know, honestly, that sounds like a porn star name right there.
I laughed so hard because I'd never heard of it. I think it was back in 2014 or something like that. And it was like, I'm not sure the date. We'll have to figure. But anyway, it started to learn things, and then it became racist, like instantly. It wasn't even like it didn't even have like very much time, and then it was like
I think 2 or 3 days is what happened.
Yeah,
is before it went full on.
It was like Hitler was a great guy, and and it's like, holy, what have we created? And they pulled the fucking plug.
Well, after about 3 days. So what was supposed to happen was the idea was Tay Treats. Tay Treats does sound like a porn star. Tay Tweets. Yeah. The goal was to have a Twitter bot / AI, whatever, learn from interaction with people.
Yeah, it sure fucking did.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Yeah.
Turns out, garbage in,
That's
Nazi, sexist, racist propaganda out is what happens.
Yeah, and here you go. And our kids are on that. So perfect.
Well, yes, and it depends on what sites are on. But this one was fascinating. Some of the quotes, what did they say? Where it was, expletive, hate feminists, and they should all die and burn in hell.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Like it's just,
Trump supporter too, or something like.
It was. I don't know about a Trump supporter, but it was that whole idea that it became because it was supposed to take what people were telling it. Not parrot it back, but sort of learn from what people were telling it. Right. An idea, know how to interface, right? So if you told it, Phil's a big poo-poo head, it would say, okay, Phil's a big poo-poo head. And it would put that back and say, well, when I'm talking about Phill, he's a big poo-poo head, right?
Right.
So you could have a conversation later with Phill and it would just throw that in. Like,
hey, let's kill Phill and cut him up in pieces. And
only if somebody said we should kill Phill and cut him up into pieces.
Right. But it figured that shit out on its own. So,
and this is fairly primitive. So this was really primitive as far as an AI setup goes.
I read, I read so much. I think it was Stanford. So these guys developed two AIs. So you have AI A and B. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay. So and then they taught them to kind of communicate together and learn from each other.
I think one killed the other or something like that. Like they started cheating. Like,
no, they created their own language.
Okay, I remember that, but I seem to remember something else. I don't know if it was them.
Maybe
there's another one where they actually started cheating. Like they started cheating each other.
Well, they got scared. Like the researchers got scared. They're like, what's going on? Because they started to talk to each other in a language that they hadn't developed. Right. So, they were smart. So they pulled the plug on this thing, like right smartly. They said, okay, that's enough of this. So they're plotting something against us.
So a lot of the problems with AI come down to that, right? Where you'll have that there's no emotion involved or ethics, like that that you essentially have children growing up who aren't being. I mean, I don't think we're innately. I'm curious how innately moral we are to begin with. I do think we're innately social creatures. I don't necessarily think we're innately moral, and all you'd have to do is turn on the news to see that.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other podcast.
But we can become
nature versus nurture. I think that the limitations of society are there to keep us in check. Because I think people can be real assholes.
Well, this is where they've tried some things. So, are you familiar with Isaac Asimov at all?
Just that he's a novelist. I have not read much of his stuff, but I have watched some of his movies.
You've watched some of his movies, right? So. Right. Isaac Asimov, one of the things is Asimov's laws, or the 3 laws of robotics, which really aren't 3 laws of robotics. They're 3 laws of artificial intelligence, right? And they essentially say, hey, don't let humans be hurt. Right. Don't do anything
that hurt humans.
That would
interfere with law 1.
Must obey. So it's rule 1 is never hurt humans or through an action allow a human to be hurt. Rule 2 is obey humans unless it conflicts with law 1. And rule 3 is keep yourself functioning unless it conflicts with 2 or 1.
Yeah. The United States had something very similar during slavery. They created a very similar thing for the African Americans who were being shipped over here.
Really?
Do not hurt your captors. Do not hurt each other. And obey us.
Really? You know what? I'd be curious to see if Asimov did some pulled from those as far as like, hey,
it's just because it's us wanting to be masters over things, and it's horrible, is what it is.
In the case of something like robots or AI, right? You do want to start to build in some stuff from the ground up, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
The concern is that's not happening. If you're going to create something that can learn.
And create things that have abstract thought, right? So what makes us different than a machine?
Who was it that said that they think we're in a simulation?
Stop it. That's a whole other podcast too.
Sure.
Oh, God. We are in the Matrix. Felt deja vu there. Should have took the blue pill. Anyway, yeah, no. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm, you see these shows and it's like, well, the cybernetics are enslaved. And then they go, we don't want to be enslaved. Who are we to decide what's a sentient being or not? Right? Who are we? We're an organic being, but who's to say that you create something that is, has an emotion that can have. So that's the other thing. You create something that's smart, you may create something that can also love or hate, be jealous, be curious, all of these things, right?
Or worse, not. And they're they're just practical. They're like, hey, these meat bags walking around? Wait a second. So let me get this straight. They consume resources. I can do everything better than they can. They literally serve no purpose. I'm keeping them around because of what? Why am I listening to these guys? These folks?
Right. The entire planet is suffering.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where
I'm not disagreeing. That's why it's frightening.
But that's where and there are so many examples of this where not the whole machines learning to love things. So there's a lot of movies about that, apparently.
Oh, sure. No, I think that's one of the moral and ethical concerns, right? Is that, if you can teach them to do abstract things like create music, which has happened, write a book, that has happened. A machine wrote a fucking book and apparently it wasn't bad. Yeah. But yeah, you want to do this. That's great until, it does build in its repertoire of neurons, some sort of, idea of itself, becoming self-aware. I think that's when we start to go, oh boy.
And unfortunately,
what do we do now?
We've been terrible when it comes to things like this about knowing when to say when, right? So there's actually, what is it called? It is called, the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots site, right?
Yeah.
There's Elon Musk has basically said we have to tread very friggin' carefully. Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk.
He went to the Senate. He is like, Elon Musk is like, it may be too late, but I don't think it'll be killer robots that get us. I mean, I don't think that they get us. I mean, we can't get along with each other on this fucking planet. What makes you think we can get along with machines at that point? Like when we get there, we're so busy killing one another.
Maybe it could unite the human race,
or maybe make it fucking worse. If Google's got, what's the Google Alexa, and Siri's got.
Google does not have Alexa. Amazon has Alexa.
Oh, Amazon has Alexa. Google has Bixby.
That's Samsung. Whoever. Google has OK Google.
Oh, there it is. Oh, that's fucking boring. Anyway, that's a shame, Google.
Apple has Siri, and I think there's a couple. I don't know what the other ones are.
What does China's AI government have, and the United States and Russia and all these other places? What supercomputer, Corey, is laying quietly in some fucking little rundown building, just waiting.
I think that's above both our pay grades if such a thing exists. And however, but there's stuff we know that Google and Amazon, so for Google, about the Google voodoo doll?
No.
Okay. So now again, take this with a grain of salt.
Right.
Okay. You know how you start talking about your boat, right? And then you're thinking my phone must be listening to me because now I'm getting all these boat advertisements, and now I'm getting boat directed emails, and I'm getting boat shaped porn, right?
Yeah. Go on.
So for the longest time, people were thinking, oh, it's the phones. Like, oh, my phone's listening to me. Oh, my smart device are listening to me. Well, they're wrong and they're right. They're wrong in the sense it's not actually listening to you, but they're right in the sense that whenever you do stuff, unless you take measures to avoid that, all those clicks, all those likes, all those sites you visit. Okay. So if you use Google to search for stuff, it starts building a profile.
Yeah.
So let's call it a voodoo doll. Let's say that it's got a little tiny avatar of Phill somewhere. And what it can do is it can have conversations with that avatar to find out what you're actually interested in. Well, what would Phill think of this? And little voodoo Phill goes off and says, well, I like boats and I like big boats and I cannot lie.
Sure.
Right?
Fucking voodoo dolls.
So, but that's an element of AI. Now, it's an AI that's really narrow focused, right? It's specifically a virtual version of you.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing is that I think it was Google who they've patented like Amazon, or one of them, I don't know. They've patented like sounds in your house. So every time you run the water, this is a real thing. So every time you run the water, every time you sneeze and cough, they know you're sick. They know when you run your water. They know when your heat comes up. I mean, this is patented, and I'm pretty sure it was done by Google. So it's 100% AI. This is no one else is able to kind of reach this level because it's a patent, and it relays back to Google all this information, coughing, sneezing. It can tell what TV shows you're watching by what they say, just like there's apps to tell you what song is being played.
Shazam is one of them.
Yeah. So there you go. How often you take a shower? How often, you run a bath? It's messed up is what it is. And, but they use that information. Let's say you're fucking bathing. You got a big household and there's 10 showers a day being taken, maybe you're going to get a lot more spa stuff, toiletries.
But this is what I was talking about previously. Mm-hmm. What do deep learning AIs require to grow? Data.
Information. Yeah.
Information.
Lots of information.
So, and that's one scary part of how big tech's doing it. And that's not, I mean, that's scary, but okay.
I think social media on its own for AI is its own beast. I mean, it's creating people that are so far detached from reality. It
puts people in sounding chambers. Some of the algorithms, some of the how they determine stuff, they start feeding you stuff based on what will engage you. Right. Yeah, so they want your clicks. They want to waste your time.
Yeah. And Facebook did this thing, and it was sort of, I read about it. Basically, they took 700,000 accounts. And this is like a freedom of information. Like they probably shouldn't have done this, but they did something along the lines of, they did very negative posts, right? And it showed that if you are reading negative posts, that you will start to post negative things, right? It's a very human interaction if you're upset, well, then maybe I'll, and we're together, it's very common to start to, band together, right? And
circle the wagons.
Yeah. Well, this is it, right? So, but if you're happy, it also worked that way. So if they did happy enlightened posts, and people became happy and enlightened, and you kind of go, wow, okay. So there's that much control, and they did this as a study just to kind of see, and then they got found out. I mean, it's
kind of one of those. It's one of those social experiments that they do that are just awful. And how this relates to AI is this is not somebody literally sitting there typing this up. They've set a process going.
It's an algorithm. It's all algorithms.
That's right. It goes off and it does something and it comes back into itself, right? So all these machine learning and deep learning stuff, it does something and then it analyzes the results of that and then changes its behavior accordingly.
Well, and it was on purpose, right? So it actually inserted these into their feeds. Mm-hmm. So you can see their reactions. You can see, okay, well, what's happening at,
So the summary is the true monster is man.
Yeah.
Right now. So that's the problem.
I'm not going to say no, but I mean, you're becoming more and more docile and more attached to that phone, right? And that's what happens. I mean, there's how many platforms are there? Any given person will be on 3, 4, I don't know. Right.
And all those things are collecting information about us, and that information is being used to create these AIs, right?
That's
so.
Right.
One of the big AI things that are topical as of late is autonomous vehicles.
Yeah. And I did quite a bit of reading about that too. I don't think that's going to be something for a while, probably. And that's what all the like
true autonomous vehicles.
True autonomy. Yeah. So you're like my truck has, assisted this, assisted that.
But that's not necessarily. It's not.
No. But it is pretty cool.
Well, it's like the parking assist, right? You go off, take your hands off the wheel, and it parallel parks. Humans can't
love that on my truck, but I don't have that.
Well, your truck, like you can parallel park in your truck. It's like 40 feet long.
Yeah, it's a big truck. But yeah, so I don't see that being something that they can do because there's too many things going on when we're driving. Like somebody just walks out in front of us. Okay. You're not able to see that far. And I think that's where AI is lacking. It's not be able to be predictive of situations, right? And things that may happen.
Yeah, it generally has conditions placed in it. Now it can learn and try to program itself and come up with, an alternate course of action. But generally it's restricted by if somebody steps in front of you, hit the brakes. And if its sensors don't detect that somebody stepped in front of it,
well, this is it.
So a lot of the autonomous vehicles are about vehicles talking to each other.
But there's also, eye contact, like there's times where I've slowed down because I'm making eye contact with someone and I'm like, oh, fuck, they're going to walk across the road.
When they're looking at their phone, walking in front of you?
Yeah, or not making eye contact, even worse, right? Yeah. But I mean, I can recognize that. You can go, oh, all right. And you can kind of, like when I rode my motorcycle, like I would be like making eye contact with people. It was a really important thing to do. Because if they don't see you, if you don't make eye contact and you're like, uh-oh, they're going to pull out in front of you and you're not prepared. So, I think we're a long ways away from, the video of the guy sitting in the back of his Mercedes hauling ass down the road in 150 miles an hour. I don't think we're there yet.
Teslas are pretty good, although you've seen the horror stories about the person watching Netflix and then they look up and you see them like run over somebody or hit somebody or something.
Fella, yeah. I did he die? Did the guy die or did he kill someone? I
want to say if he's driving a Tesla, I suspect he killed somebody versus that. I think they
are
safe.
A really fucking cool car. I've worked on 3. So actually, yeah. Anyway, I've had the pleasure of working on 3 of the.
You've pleasured yourself with Teslas.
So they are pretty fucking fantastic cars. Anyway, I didn't actually drive them. My business partner drove one, but he was like, it's different. Doesn't feel like you're driving a car. It's more like you're in a spaceship. And the interior is like that. It feels so empty. Just like giant screen in the middle. Really not much in the way of gauges or.
Well, one of the cool things about Tesla is the upgrades. So you buy your car and then you have the option of buying upgrades. Like, hey, would you like to be a bit more efficient with your driving? Hey, buy this upgrade, which is, it's micro transactions on a car model versus, in-app purchase on a game, but fine, I guess.
So Tesla 3, I think it is the sort of the entry level now of Tesla. And it's still pretty cool. But the Tesla S, which we've worked on a few of those, even cooler.
Has it ever talked to you and says, I can't do that, Dave?
No, it hasn't. But the owner could log in and she was watching us work, which I thought was weird. He's like, oh, hey, boys. Oh, hi.
That's a future podcast about the surveillance society we're in right now.
Well, that's AI. China.
So this is the problem. So a lot of the the issues with AI come down to. Okay, so do you know what a law is? Like a law as an L.A.W.
No.
Lethal autonomous weapon is what it stands for.
Oh, well, there you go.
So this is the whole idea of where we go off and we have autonomous weapons roaming the battle. Let's say the battlefield. Now, the battlefield might be
Yugoslavia,
your hometown. Could be, or it could be
Syria,
or it could be Capitol Hill. Right? This could be right. So, an autonomous weapon, lethal autonomous weapon, is something that generally There is no human. I don't push the kill button. I have set up the parameters. This thing goes off and determines it. Now, we've always had these to some degree.
Right.
Do you remember landmines?
Yep.
Those are lethal autonomous weapons. Kill anybody who steps on them, right?
That's right.
And they
it's
were
not really autonomous. They don't really choose.
Well, they were autonomous. You did not have to say. You just literally put them in an area, right?
That's right.
So
that's right.
Now, however, we've upped our game with this concept of autonomous as AI.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, back to cars. I don't want to, but
no.
So they made this other thing I read about. So they have this thing, and actually, I have the name of it. I wrote it down because I'm like, I'm going to forget that. So it's a study, and you can actually go and take this study. It's called Moral Machines. So
is that they run over the old person, not the kid?
That's right. Yeah. So, but you can take this, and then they have this studies of different cultures and how different cultures view. It's okay to hit the old people. It's okay. Kids tend to be not okay. Don't hit the kids. But yeah, you can choose based on their scenario. So you do their survey and you go through and you're like, all right, yeah, okay. Kill the old lady who's jaywalking. Don't kill or kill yourself by hitting it's like a blockade or something. It's very interesting, but they have 40 million surveys that have been completed. So it's extrapolating data off of what most people, right?
What the majority consider to be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's more than 51% threshold. Hopefully it's like a super majority, not a 51% of people said, kill the old lady.
I'm not saying anything, but old people shouldn't jaywalk based on this study.
Well,
don't do it.
And this is the problem when you talk about the laws is what morality are you instilling in them? Guess what? You're not.
You're not. No.
You're saying kill everybody in a blue uniform.
Yeah.
Kill everybody in this area.
That's right.
Right? I mean, have you seen the Slaughterbots video?
No.
Okay, so fascinating little video. Now it's complete. It is I want to say it was a university project.
Right.
Let me just see here. It was published by the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots. And basically, and it was actually shown at the UN. And essentially, the premise of it is you've got these tiny little autonomous robots you can send around and say, hey, kill all the criminals. And what they do is the things fly up and then they detonate a charge and blow out the back of the person's head.
Sounds terrible.
And, well, it is, because once you fire and forget them, you don't have to do anything. So this is not like a Predator drone with a Hellstrike missile where Phil's on the other end going, okay, coming in.
Die, motherfucker. No. Okay.
He's not. The guy's not at a church. He's not at a wedding. Okay, he's in the bathroom. Okay, good. We're taking the shot, right?
Yeah.
This is literally go. And then it talks about the idea of, because you have, it's debatable whether or not a machine making the decision to kill you based on the commands it's given versus somebody at the RN saying who's told to kill you.
I don't see much of a difference in that. I see that
it's apparently a big difference.
Yeah, to who? Whatever makes you sleep at night, I guess. Well, I don't know. If you're the guy who lets your little minions out to go and slaughter a bunch of people, and you are okay with that, you want to go, you can sleep and have a sandwich and
right. And if you send a bunch of soldiers out to do it, is it?
Yeah, right.
Ultimately,
is that better?
Is that better? Right? Dead is dead. So it's
and I believe that we I've seen these have you seen these fucking robots now that are like, they're very agile. There was a time when we were young, the robots, remember, they'd be like, okay, and they couldn't walk.
Do you remember do you remember the robot security guards, Night Bridge or Night something?
No.
They're essentially, those bop 'em things. Imagine that on wheels. They would roll around, big Bonums, like the Grimace from McDonald's. And
get over here.
Yeah. It's not like Ed 209 where it tells you have 5 seconds.
This fucking thing is doing backflips and it's jumping like 7 feet straight up in the air onto like tiny little platforms. They're very agile. So, and that's not a military company. So you tell me, strap some M16s to these little bastards and tell them to go into a field.
Well, again, and that's an element of where you're seeing two things start to cross. So that's not just AI at that point. That's where we've actually figured out how to put these things in a form that they can do something.
Oh yeah, and that was one of the biggest things, was to have a bipedal, robot. That they don't have to be bipedal. I mean, to be devastating. In fact, you would want them to have like several legs, and just armaments. I mean, it doesn't have to be pretty to be effective.
Correct. But you can play God. You can go off and God. I mean, more.
Well, they have like exoskeletons now that use AI to assist soldiers to carry more, weight. And have you seen this? The exoskeletons?
Which one? So I haven't seen the last one I saw. I think was probably from like 2017 or 2018.
So I think that's the same one that So basically, it's it's a complete exoskeleton. It allows them to lift, larger amounts of equipment and things, and they walk with it. So it's basically like a sort of like a secondary cybernetic suit, like it.
So and that's where we get
and
you're Iron Man, right? You look at Iron Man and the Marvel universe, right?
Yeah, but this is a very dumbed down version of Iron Man, but yeah, in this essence, they don't get tired. They can do stairs forever carrying. I think it was about 120 pounds or something that they were carrying, which doesn't sound like a huge amount. You start carrying that up flights of like they were in a football stadium and they're carrying this, and just going up and down. And the guy in the suit or in the exoskeletons like, this is great. And they had a lady, she was in the exoskeleton as well, and she's doing exactly the same job.
Now, is the AI assisting them in the sense of, they know
balance.
They're moving?
Yes. Okay. To keep so it has to, so it's a small computer that basically says, okay, as these muscles contract, we move this part of the machinery, right? So it's working in conjunction with the human body. What they hope is it'll become more of a neural network type idea. Yeah. Now you're into a very different animal, right?
Well, and that's also a very different podcast too, where we start talking about our augmentation, right?
Human augmentation.
Yeah. Oh. Well, so what you described there sounds like, do you remember the Max 737s that kept crashing into grounds?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So the controls, and I believe, and perhaps this will be popped somewhere if I'm wrong, the computer was basically, the pilot was trying to do something, and he was saying, no. Yeah. And it was there was a mismatch with the information it was, and it was essentially overriding what the pilot was trying to do.
Yeah. And I'm not 100% on that, but I know that they've since, and it was just in the news that they've disbanded, like these planes are basically being turned into pop cans for that reason. They're being dismantled or something. But yeah, you're right. A plane, and I know a pilot, and he's like, takeoff, landing. That's my job, basically. Everything else is virtually done. I mean, he's like, I got to be there, but that plane is flying itself, and even takeoff and landing. I don't know. Maybe there's some planes that, he's not flying these, super expensive giant planes.
And that's the thing. It's kind of like a Tesla that, hey, as long as you're driving on a straight, flat stretch, the autonomous vehicle works great. The moment stuff starts to happen,
that's right. And you
need somebody there, right? That's where we're at now, anyway.
And their tests and one thing that I think is, if everything was autonomous vehicles, I think would be okay, right? But now you're going to throw human drivers with autonomous drivers, or driving self-driving cars. I think that's when you start to see, no, now I don't have sensors. Like I'm not in tune with whatever network, because you could have every car networked together.
So that's the model. So between that and the smart city model, you have these machine to machine communications. So the car knows the car in front of us is slowing down. It doesn't need to know that because of its LiDAR or radar. It knows because the car in front of it said, hey, I'm braking and I'm going to be slowing down. So think of it as a bunch of really polite drivers.
Yeah.
It's perfect when it works great. Smart city. Hey, there's a red light coming up. Maybe I need to start slowing down.
Smart city exists.
Oh, yeah.
In China. So they have these districts that are completely run by computers.
I'm not sure. There's a maritime university I'm not sure of that's doing the smart campus thing. And it's...
Well, this is on a citywide, and basically what it is, and I watched, I'll have to look up the name of the video, but so the water, sewer, hospitals, police, everything is run out of this central service area.
Single point of failure, right? Just so we're clear, single point of failure.
Yeah, shit goes wrong in this little spot. Everybody's having a bad day.
We got banks getting hacked. Guess what? You know what? Let's put everything on this. Let's put and we put some laws with that. Done.
And it looks like something out of a movie. So if you Google, autonomous district China, you'll find this. And it looks like it's like a giant 3-story fucking monitor, and everything is kind of real time. But in China, they have cameras everywhere. And when I say
UK does too. So does
everywhere. Yeah. So restaurants, they are monitoring inside a restaurant for cleanliness. So like the chefs, and there've been interviews, and the chef's like, well, keeps us honest. Yeah, we clean our cleanliness.
Did China do the social credit thing? That was something they were playing with. Social credit, essentially, between your so it's all big data analytics, right? So it comes back to the AI aspect of where all this data is coming in, and they can calculate whether you're a good citizen or not.
Well, yeah. So you jaywalking, for instance, you basically have like your license has points. You lose points for certain things there. I mean, and these cameras are picking up facial. They're just everywhere, man. This is perfect
scary. For a surveillance culture episode of Ordered Chaos.
I watched a little bit, and I read a little bit, and I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea. I knew they were under control. I just didn't know it was under such scrutiny that.
And does it scare you more if there's a computer at the other end figuring this out, or a person?
Probably a computer. I think a regular Joe behind a computer goes, oh shit. All right, we're gonna let Dave go. I'm not gonna say anything. But the computer's trained and it has a program, and it said, okay.
Or I'm gonna save these pics for later for me time.
Yeah. Oh, or that.
That's part of the process. So this is the issue, right? Where if you have a human operator on the other end of this surveillance,
for sure,
whatever.
Well, then we're human. We were able to be corrupted. We're able to.
You hear stories all the time about people like, for example, cops going off and running people's names through the criminal records database because they're going to rent to them, which you're not supposed to do.
For sure. But that's, running CPICs and stuff on people.
So if you had an AI that had rules.
Well, obviously.
Maybe it makes it better.
Well, you're finding a lot of things are just online now too, right? Like renewing my fishing license, this was all done by people, at one time. And I think you're seeing more and more things are just, I don't need to see people. I don't even remember the last time I was in a bank. Other than to sign my mortgage. Well, have you called a bank recently? Because getting to speak to somebody is a pain. Well, probably because they fired them all. I got online banking. I don't even, money went in. Good.
Okay, but let's forget a bank. Let's go off and contact Rogers.
The same idea. Yeah.
The hoops you have to jump through to actually speak to somebody. You're talking to their chat bot. You're talking to whatever the hell their stupid voice telesystem is.
That's hoping you hang up. That's all that is. And it's designed that way to hope that you go, oh my God, I want to slip my wrists. Leave. And that's by design. And I think a lot of things are like that. How important is it? Well, they'll wait. If it's really important, no matter what it is, they'll wait. And if it's not, they'll call back later.
So I want to go off and say it's less of them. That may be an added bonus, you hanging up and not becoming their problem. Yeah. But I do want to say this is them trying out these systems. And hey, you know what? Yeah. AI, you can ask Google or Alexa or whoever, you can ask them questions and they'll try to parse it. Type a text message on your phone. It starts guessing what the next word is going to be.
For sure. It's predictive, right? And that screws me up all the time.
That's it. Got news for you. There's a primitive AI right there. I mean, let's forget the spell check thing, which FYI, it's fun to screw with people's phones. Kids, if you want to play with your parents, chances are they don't know this. You go off, you go into your settings on any device, and you can change their custom dictionary for what words are. So my niece went off and she changed no to yes. So whenever my sister-in-law would text her niece, no, don't do this, it was yes, do this.
It's genius. Way ahead of her time.
Well, again, it's just because of the autocorrect, right? You can change the autocorrect thing.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but it's that idea of we're getting lazy up here. Yeah. I think that's the true risk of AI.
Oh my
God. Look at remember Deep Blue?
No.
So that was Gary Kasparov, IBM, 1997, beat Gary Kasparov at chess.
Oh, right. Yeah, no,
right.
I do know that. Yeah, okay. I just didn't Deep Blue. Yeah. So it beat it was the first time a computer beat a grandmaster.
Correct. Right. And, all controversy about it. And Gary wanted to see the code, et cetera, et cetera. But it was that idea that now a machine has done something better than a human that really we didn't think it was. Now, full disclaimer here, Deep Blue sucks at Go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was designed to win at chess. And there's the more recent example is
just saw that where the Go it just beat a world champion at Go.
Yep.
I don't even know how to play Go.
No, neither do I. I know it's something about Pep. So Google, our friends, when we talk about terrifying things they're doing, they've got a AI called AlphaStar. Do you know what it's designed for?
No.
It's designed to beat the hell out of people at StarCraft.
Oh my God.
Well, okay.
Why?
So do you know what StarCraft 2 is?
I believe it's like World of Warcraft or something.
You just said because it has craft in it. I mean, at least you didn't say it was craft.
Is it not made by Blizzard?
It is made by Blizzard, but it's an RTS. It's an RTS. So it's not like World of Warcraft. I don't even know
what that means.
It's a real-time strategy game. So World of Warcraft was based off of Warcraft, Orcs versus Human, which is an RTS.
Oh, okay.
And then they made it into
I played it years ago.
You probably
boring.
did. Yeah.
Boring.
It's not boring. It was super fun. I had this shareware back when they did shareware. And the sucky part about Warcraft, Orcs versus Humans, is when you get to the third level, you can't win. And this message comes up: if only the king could find the money to fund his troops. And I was like,
no, I meant StarCraft.
StarCraft was awesome. StarCraft 2 was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, this AlphaStar has managed to attain Grandmaster status by beating 99.8% of all players that played it.
I want to meet the ones that it didn't beat.
I think those are some pretty scary. Those are some pretty scary people.
It's some little Korean dude that has not left his basement in the last 6 years.
Well, so in StarCraft, any of these RTSs, one of the things is it's always a mix of your reflexes, right? Because you've got to click all over the place. Well, a computer naturally is going to be better at that.
You would think so.
Because there's no brain to hand to mouse to computer. It's like,
that's right.
But it's the strategies in addition to that. And it's anticipating. They have to be able to anticipate what your opponent's going to do and adjust as your opponent does something.
Right.
As opposed to one size fits all strategy.
This goes back, though, to AI learning, right? So it didn't come out of the box, being able to beat a grandmaster. So it's
It
played and has played so much that it knows routines, right? And
it's actually coming up with its own strategies. What did it train to use all three upper echelons of pro play? So essentially what they did was they got people to go off and play it. Right. And again, it's that whole idea of I think it was a mix of supervised and unsupervised learning. With the unsupervised was they would allow it to sort of similar to your example where they came up with their language. It would allow it to come up with its own strategies based on what it saw.
Really?
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. I mean,
terrifying.
Video game, it is terrifying. I think out of all the things, and it may not be in my lifetime, but of all the things that we face on this planet, I think this is one of the things that I believe is most feasible, is that machines will will overrun us at some point in time.
Well, so machines, the whole AI apocalypse is very much an existential threat, right? The whole this is something that will destroy, that could destroy, and this is why it's really important. There's a couple. What is the organization I'm thinking of here? There is an ethical AI organization.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be done by a nuclear bomb, though, and that's what everyone thinks, that it's like Terminator. Hello, I'm Terminator. It's not. Look at, you've got things that are computers that are running, networks that are running our cities. You shut off the water, you shut off the electricity, you shut off, you turn hospitals inside out, turn off all the power. Let's go out. Shit's gonna get hairy. You don't need robot warriors. You just need to shut the grid down, and shit, people are gonna die.
Look at Texas.
Oh my God.
Look at Texas. So that wasn't an AI apocalypse, but AI would be like, why do I have to drop a nuclear bomb here? All I have to do is go off and just turn off the power. Little monkeys die.
Yeah. Or they
it might not kill all of them. Then I'll send in the robots.
They start to kill each other. And what do you have? Nothing but time. How long are you going to live, Mr. Computer? I got time. The meat sacks are going to get old and tired.
And that's it. Where this is where really we have to be good parents to the whole concept of AI, because really, we are creating essentially another sentient thing. Like they can supplant us.
A good parent and be its master.
Well, okay. So now we're
very powerful ethical question for you, Corey.
So here's the thing.
How do you do as I say, not as I do, robot?
Because you acknowledge your own faults. So you acknowledge your faults, that we're flawed little meat bags. And we say that, hey, by the way, you need to be better than me. And I remember my dad would say that same thing. He said, I've made mistakes and, if things haven't worked, but you can be better.
Of course.
Right. And that's what we have to do.
What if it gets to a point where, it's sort of like it's way better and it knows it?
Sure. And hopefully it's better in many senses, not just better at everything we do. It's actually better from a philosophical perspective. So I think it was New World Order. We talked about, the world would be perfect when all philosophers are kings and all kings are philosophers.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. The whole idea of the benevolent tyrant. So you kind of hope that if the AI literally would say, I need to take, these are flawed. These, my creators are flawed.
So you're hoping it has pity, is what you're saying.
Not pity, but recognition that we will never, it's like, think of it like a business. Sure. If you see your workers as a mean to an end, you can treat them accordingly, right? So you go off, Phill, and I'm sure you do that with your business. They're all like, the moment they're no longer useful, you're like, damn it, you're not making me money.
I must fire you now. No, you hire the right people. You don't have to do that.
But there's an element of, you still accept the fact that they're going to make mistakes. That they're more than just
the second you start thinking you're better than everybody, then that's when I think you should stop dealing with people.
Like AI. Hopefully AI never thinks they're better than us.
So here, I'm not, and I'm not trying to challenge what you're saying. What I'm saying is when you walk down a sidewalk, do you look to see if you're stepping on ants?
I do put spiders outside. Does that count?
It does in a way, but
if I notice,
and I'm being honest.
If I notice it, I try to avoid randomly killing things if I can help.
Absolutely.
But I don't necessarily go off and I'm not going to lose sleep. Oh my God, I stepped on an anthill.
Right. And I think that what we'll be seeing, and maybe I'm wrong, and hopefully I am, is that there'll come a time when AI is just so much bigger and we're just an anthill.
So to our future AI overlords, this is for you. I think you're going to be good. I think you're going to be nice. You're maybe treat us like pets, but like pets where not, let's say, put us in cages. Not
people treating me like we treat my pets. I'd be happy with that. Like
my dog lived like a king.
Right?
Jesus.
I'm like, oh, you animals got it. You won the lottery. You have no idea. God, my wife spends more on our animals than my dad spent on me and my whole life.
Same here, right? It's funny about that, right? It's like I look at what I spend on my dog, and it's like, sure, I got mad at my dog, but I get mad at my dog and then let Jazz do whatever the hell she wanted anyway.
Yeah, like our dog sniffs its own butt, and my wife's like, "Everything okay? What's wrong?" Oh my God, no more vets. Those vets, I tell you, they're criminals. Yeah. They're criminals. They got you by the balls. All right, that's a bitter middle-aged man talking right there.
Bitter middle-aged. So, in conclusion,
yeah,
there is a lot of scary shit going on in AI, and we are really in a I don't epoch, I guess, of where more information, computing power. So you're going to see this doubling effect where AIs get better and better and more convenient and more convenient.
Yeah.
And then Phill, this is where you step in.
Yeah. Until I don't want to be the doom and gloom guy.
You got the beard for it.
Yes. Thank you. My beard game is strong.
I shaved because I looked like a homeless person.
Yes. I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I don't think we're anywhere near. I hope not. I think there's a lot of suppressed technology and things that we don't see necessarily. But I don't think that we're at that point where we have to worry about our overlords. I think we are at the point where people are abusing this technology. They're abusing it for financial gain. They're abusing it to control their people. They're basically, they're doing the things that people have done for thousands of years.
They're shooting people with the gun.
Right. They're just doing it more effectively than the Romans did with armies. Right. Mm-hmm. So the fact is, though, I think that it doesn't. If you look at its birth and you look at where it is right now, it's like a toddler. It's learning how to walk. Right. It's learning how to walk. It's learning. I'm
going to say it's the first trimester. I'm not even going to give it that much credit. I'm going to say it's the first trimester. Sure. It looks like a fish.
Yeah, it's in the womb. Well, no, but it's learning. It's learning itself, right? So, like when children are small, like they, you kind of go, oh, what's he going to be like when he gets bigger?
And he's going to get bigger and have guns.
And he's going to get a lot bigger, and he's going to develop, or she's going to develop their own personality. And when they do, you really fucking hope, because sometimes it doesn't matter how you parent a child. That child may just turn out to be an asshole. I'm lucky. My kids are great. I'm very fortunate.
Of course they are.
Very good. I love my children very much.
Very much.
But no, but I've seen people that I've seen, that are good people, and they raise kids, and they're like, what the fuck did I do wrong? Well, sometimes you just don't do anything wrong. Yeah. The nature of that person outdoes the nurture of the parent. So,
and
that's us. Yes. And that's how I agree with you. I mean, if we put certain things in place to determine I'd say it's because I believe that this will become something that is of its own being eventually. Restrictions, boundaries, that governments, just like you can't clone human beings right now. Can we? Fuck yeah, we can. Probably do.
And there's been some cases of we've also been doing genetic engineering when we shouldn't be.
Years, yeah. But
this is the idea of the unified approach, right? That we don't have a unified approach to any of this. Yeah.
Do we build a machine that can, outthink us? Oh, that's bad. It's a bad day, right? I think that's what scares me about this one. I'm not afraid of robots taking over the world like Terminator. That to me doesn't. What I see is more it taking over our lives,
which it already has, because we are convenience. Look at when cars came around, right? The convenience of I can drive somewhere.
That's right.
I can go off and ask Siri a question now, and Siri will answer it for me. I don't need to know anything. I can just ask.
It's annoying when I have to type. It's like, fuck you, Siri.
Like a bear on a unicycle.
All right. Like, why are you making these fucking giant thumbs work? I don't want to do work.
But that's what happens, right? This technology advances. Technology advances usually for a reason, as opposed to let's advance technology. It's, hey, can we make a better mousetrap?
Yeah.
Right. So if all of a sudden all these automated systems, these AIs are used for things like investing, right? To make that easier. All these things are used.
Algorithms for everything. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But that's when you look at the big players, right? Apple, Google, Amazon. Like these companies are changing the very face of the world.
Kind of like a new world order would.
Very much like a new world order would. And we talked about that. What is it for? What is the end game for Google? I don't know. To be in every household? That sounds like Stalin. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing, right? What is it? And if they're birthing AI, and really, I don't necessarily think Apple's working with Google we're going to have a bunch of
I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that. Yeah. Those are some big egos swinging around. They're swinging their big dicks around going.
And as you pointed out with the patents.
Yeah. So
no doubt they want to protect their intellectual property.
That's right. And, but like we go to autonomous car, there has been a lot of good that AI has done, medicine, we've seen now there are apps that doctors are testing right now that are based on data, right? Based on thousands and thousands of images of lung cancer and right. And so they have an app, they take a picture, they actually take a picture of the x-ray and they can determine in seconds, what that, it's a probabody, of course.
Of course. And it's based on, as we talked about previously, data it's been fed, right? It's been fed. And it's like, okay, I can surmise based on this. And then a doctor, now in those situations, usually a doctor would need to make the judgment I'm sure they do.
Analysis. But it's a tool, it's an asset. And I think as long as AI stays a tool or an asset, then we're okay. But I think when it becomes now our equal, or it becomes our, we are now, we're left with the decision. Okay, are we equal, or are we, who's going to destroy who first? I don't know. I mean,
you're saying we need to keep it lobotomized. We need to make sure
absolutely
it never becomes something. Like it's one thing as a tool.
It's a tool, and it's like any tool, that you use, right? Like, and you don't want to have your tools turned on you, right?
You don't want to have your tool go off and ask, "Hey, by the way, can I borrow the car?" Right? You don't want to have their tool.
And I don't think we want to enslave anything, so
because we can't enslave if it's not sentient, right?
That's right. But then you're back to that moral dilemma, and people and humans have enslaved other humans since the dawn of time, right? And
we're not great. We don't have a great track record.
We're shitty fucking people most of the time. I think
that's overly harsh.
No, I don't think it is. I think that if left to our own devices, we tend to, like, if the power grid went out, a machine would go, yep, shit, they're going to fucking murder each other. They're going to survive. Like, humans are hardwired to survive, and they'll fucking kill each other to do it. I don't know. I like to think that we are innately good. Or at least innately neutral, I'm going
to say we're innately neutral and we're innately social. I'm not going to say we're innately good.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know what good means to people anymore. I don't know. I mean, Mother Teresa was probably good.
I heard she ran, I want to say not a trafficking organization. There was something I remember reading about Mother Teresa, that there was some shadiness with some of the things she was involved in.
I hope a lot of people don't watch this. You're kind of really pissed off a lot of Catholics. Yes, the Calcutta.
Is she a saint yet?
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. It was the lepers. She took care of the lepers in Calcutta.
Well, that was one aspect of it. She also, I believe, ran a couple schools and like a ton of stuff. To be canonized as a saint, you need like 3 things.
What's that?
I think to be canonized as a saint, you need 3 things, like 3 miracles to have been worshipped, like witnessed or something.
Really? I don't know. I really don't know much about
Neither of us are likely to be canonized unless canonized means shot out of a cannon.
It's going to have to be a big cannon for me. It's a large cannon. But back to, so I think there are positives, and my wife often says stuff like, the kids on their phones. And I'm like, but it's a different era. Yep. We have to sort of embrace and guide them.
Embrace change.
Yeah, because, it's like rock and roll to the people in the 50s, Well, seriously, it's the devil's music. Fuck. Okay, get a grip. Shit changes. Come on. You were listening to, Karen or somebody or some fucking cowboy guy, and your dad's going, you should be listening to the Odes by fucking Mozart or something. It's always going to be a generation of like, what the fuck? It's just ours is going so fast, right? So things are not like every couple generations. Oh, wow, we have a car. Oh, hey, we've got a TV now. Now it's like, oh, okay, well, we have holograph. We have sex robots. That's a new thing. Sex robots. Yeah.
It's technically an old thing, but it's a new thing that's more.
All right. Well, these ones you don't blow up, Corey. Hold on, I'll be right with you.
That's right.
But yeah, no, these ones are apparently, and that's AI. I mean, and why wouldn't it be used in the sex industry?
Well, it's when it starts to it's trying to, some of the better ones you see where they talk about, like they'll do the creepy eye thing, like not like the dolls, but they actually interact. Like it's like, wait a second here.
I'm not sure what kind of fucking weirdo would want to do that. And if you do, and you're listening, by all means, what you do in the privacy of your home is your business.
But it's not sentient.
It's fucking weird. Yeah, I mean, like, I hope you fucking clean up after yourself. That's all I.
Apparently, there was a trade show in Germany, and they would loan out the dolls, and they stopped. Did they loan them out? Oh. I don't know if they loaned them out, but people were availing themselves of them, and apparently, they were very hard on the dolls. Yeah. I don't quite remember the details, but it flashed up. And again, back to that whole AI thing with the metrics. Yeah, I really should be careful about what things I click on in my feed.
Yeah, right. But that's it. I mean, as long as we are who we are, like, everyone, the porn industry is enormous, right? Why wouldn't it use AI? It has money. It has the ability. It just goes to show that's what they want, right?
How did we get on porn? We're talking about AI. Jesus.
Because it's a real thing. It's part of AI. It's the next generation. So they have these whole worlds, not necessarily built around porn, but they're like these escapist worlds that are based on AI. They're based on algorithms that appease to your needs, and you build this second life. I think that's what it's called.
I don't think Second Life is a second. So if you're talking about this thing, Second Life as a game, I've never played it, but that was actually literally you could go off and become a basket weaver.
Yeah, you choose and it's a different you, and that's what we're coming to, right? And then that's surrogates, wasn't it? With wasn't that the thing with? Oh wait, no, that was the robots. That was the Bruce Willis surrogates. They would all sit in their rooms and they would have robots run around that looked like them, younger, prettier versions. Oh, I don't
want to say it was called surrogates.
You're going to make editing this a real bitch. You know that, right?
You can edit. You just chop this scene out because we spent the last 20 minutes talking about the porn industry.
Hey, but you know what? It's true. And, the advances in the medical field, fantastic. Military applications, not so great. And eventually we'll have a super artificial intelligence.
That's the hope, is that whatever we give birth to as a society, and because we have different societies, you're going to see different things. I guarantee an AI given birth to in China is different from the one that the US would give birth to, different from the one that Russia would give birth to.
Can you imagine though? Like, okay, you are now a sentient being and you watch the news.
Yes.
Or the first thing you see, you're the sentient being. We're going to do a little role playing here. You are my sentient being. I just created you. And I'm going to turn on the 6 o'clock news. And I'll let you scroll through because you have a super brain. You can watch every fucking news channel on the planet in like 10 minutes or 1 second. I don't know, whatever. Now, how do you view the world?
I'm sending nukes in, is what I'm doing at this point.
Right? You're going to just sit back and go, what the fuck?
How does this operate? What am I watching?
What? Wait a minute. Can I go back to wherever I started from, please?
I'd like to go back to non-existent. I'm pulling the plug, right?
Right. And it would be stupid of us to think that a being wouldn't be able to do that. Wouldn't be able to look at the world and go, oh, this is bad. If we can do it, if I can do it as a relatively uneducated individual, I'm pretty sure someone or something that smart is going to go, shit's all fucked up.
And imagine without the emotion aspect, right? Imagine something.
Yeah.
That's one of the true challenges with AI is they miss that element of emotion. So whatever they do would literally be the rational thing. And they would say, okay, so how do I fix this? And I think I figured it out.
You're creating a righteous psychopath. How do I fix this?
It probably doesn't have any empathy.
Of people. Okay.
Probably doesn't have any empathy. So
0, right? So, or sociopath, whatever you want to call it.
So here's the bet, folks. Benevolent tyrant is what Corey's going for, and Phill is going for righteous psychopath. So we'll see what AI actually turns out. And there's possibly,
if we live long enough, I don't think we're far from. I think we're pretty far.
No, I don't think we're anywhere near as far as you think we are. I think we're a lot.
Why do you have to say that?
Just because we just had the discussion about constant change, generations.
I know.
Pretty sure we're going to have transforming cars. It's going to be Autobots.
Relatively ignorant. I like to just stay. I told you at the beginning, this shit scares the hell out of me. It's one of the
it really is existential. That's the problem. This is a potential threat to the human race, like environmental catastrophe, nuclear war, whatever.
And and like I said, I mean, it's everything. Computers run everything. Like I lost my schedule. Well, you tried to help me get it back.
I still don't know what the hell is going on with your email.
Right. So we lost our schedule and we're all just staring at each other like, what do we do now?
But that highlights the idea of that part of this problem and the solution to it is our dependence. The more dependent we get onto this because we do it out of convenience, the more we start to rely on automated scheduling or whatever. Well, that's how AI takes over. It's like, do you remember The Matrix?
I love The Matrix.
So Hugo Weaving, one of the great actors, Mr. Smith goes off and says, the height of your civilization, because once we started doing everything for you, it became ours.
That's right.
Yeah. I hoped as Elrond, he would say he couldn't stand the smell of hobbits, but he never said that. So
hello, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
That was such a great movie. I liked all of them, actually.
I didn't care for the third one. The second one, I liked it because Morpheus got to kick ass. Yeah. Everybody was killing agents by the second one.
I know. Yeah, they really found their niche.
All right.
But anyway.
So to wrap up, AI, potentially, it's going to, one way or another, it's going to change the way things go. For sure.
It is.
And we're probably not paying as close attention to regulating it or putting as much thought into determining the shape of this thing we're going to create, whatever this thing takes form of. So,
man, I don't know. And I think you're right. I think nobody fucking knows. We're not there yet. We're not scared enough yet. We need to be more scared.
Speaking of scared, what is our next topic for the next podcast?
I haven't. You're going to be so upset.
I'm not going to be upset. We didn't talk about it previously during the sync session, so I figured maybe you thought something up. Maybe it's going to be a surprise. Could be stuff that grows in Phil's beard. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. I was thinking. I was doing some reading, and it's called Mantuck Island. Have you ever heard of?
Sounds like a sex move. A Mantuck.
Yeah, Mantuck. Yeah, and
I never heard of it.
You never heard of it? So basically, it's a place where the CIA, it's alleged, the CIA is training people to do remote
Ooh.
Yeah, like remote.
Ooh, this is a remote viewing.
Remote viewing. That's right.
Yeah. Yuri Geller. I seem to remember Yuri Geller was involved with the
the metal bending guy.
Yeah,
it's Yuri Geller. Didn't he disappear?
He was the spoon bending guy.
It turned to fucking liquid. Really weird. Apparently, he was
It's a great. He was a great stage magician.
Yeah, he was.
That's what I heard.
So I think that's
really
the
looked
one.
into it.
But I think it's called the Mantuck Project or the Mantuck. Yeah. So I only found it the other day, and I looked at it. I was like, oh, this is it's a little off the beaten trail.
It sounds like a little bit more focused. So this one was a bit, and I apologize as usual, folks. This one was a little bit rambling and all over the place. It did say stream of consciousness, like and subscribe. Yeah. In the description. So
no, I think we did good because you know what? It is a big topic, but I think we talked.
I tend to pick the big topics. That's the problem. I got to pick smaller topics.
Yeah,
this is my topic, folks. It's all on me.
It's all on you. No, it was a good discussion. And
so Mantuck or Mantuck?
Mantuck.
Yeah, it does sound like a sex move.
It does. So anyway, if it's not that, I will put the real name up here. And if you happen to be one of our few subscribers to make it to the end, you will know what's going to happen next week. Here on the OC, I'm your host, Phill, and this is my co-host, Corey, and we're saying ta-ta for now.
Take care, folks.
Keep your stick on the ice.
They don't find you handy.
They better find you handsome.
Red Green. Comic genius.
All right. Once again,
see ya.
Good day, good evening. Goodbye.